You are not afraid of being alone. You are afraid of not being chosen. And that silently reshapes every decision you make without you even noticing it, as if something inside you is always waiting for the moment you will be left behind. And that is why, so often, you accept less than you truly deserve. You call it love, but deep inside, it is fear, a fear that does not scream, but controls. It shows up when someone takes too long to reply, when silence lasts longer than expected, when a look feels distant, and then something tightens in your chest, as if abandonment is about to happen. Even when there is no real sign, you feel it and you react. You adapt, you give in, you go quiet. You try to be easier, more understanding, more necessary. As if by doing that, you could stop what feels inevitable. But this fear did not begin now. It was not born in this relationship. It does not belong only to this person. It is old, much older than you imagine. And it is the quietest of all fears, because it does not say, "I am afraid of being alone." It says, "I need to do everything right so I won't be abandoned." And that is where you begin to lose yourself. Without realizing it, you start shaping who you are to keep someone by your side, and in that process, you drift away from yourself, little by little, without noticing that the abandonment you fear the most is already happening inside you. There is a pattern that repeats itself like an echo within you. You enter a relationship, and at first, everything feels light, natural, almost safe, but something begins to change, not outside, inside. A subtle restlessness appears, like a distorted reflection in a mirror. And then you start looking for signs. Small details begin to carry weight, a different gesture, a colder response, an unexpected silence, and that activates something deep. As if you already knew the ending. Before the story even unfolds, you try to ignore it, but you cannot, because this pattern is not in the other person, it is in you. It is like looking into a mirror and seeing the same scene over and over, the same anxiety, the same attempt to maintain control, the same feeling that something is about to slip away, and then you react. You move closer, or you pull away first. You test, you protect yourself, you give too much, or you completely shut down. But everything revolves around the same axis, the fear of being abandoned. And the most curious part is, this fear creates exactly what you are trying to avoid. Because when you act from it, you stop being spontaneous, you stop being whole, and you begin to live based on the other person's response. And then love stops being a meeting and becomes vigilance, stops being presence, and becomes anticipation. You no longer live what is happening. You live what might happen. And so you lose yourself between what you feel and what you fear. Without realizing you are trapped in a reflection that is not the present, but a repetition of the past. What you call fear of abandonment is actually something even deeper. It is a wound that was never seen, a part of you that learned too early. That love can disappear, and that, to keep it, it requires constant effort, silent control, continuous adaptation. In analytical psychology, this touches a fundamental dimension of the psyche, the shadow, everything you did not recognize in yourself, but that continues to act. Behind the scenes of your life, this fear is not only about losing someone, it is about losing your sense of value, of belonging, of existence, as if without the other, you would cease to be. And that is why it holds so much power, because it is not rational, it is emotional, deep, ancient. Carl Jung expressed it clearly. What you resist persists. Carl Jung, and the fear you are trying to avoid is exactly what you continue to feed because you never face it directly. You try to escape it through the other, but it is not there. It is within you, asking for awareness, asking to be acknowledged, asking for space, not to be eliminated, but to be understood. Because as long as you do not look at this part, it will continue guiding your choices. silently. You will keep confusing attachment with love, anxiety with connection, control with care, and only when you begin to see this, something changes, not outside, inside. A small shift, almost imperceptible, but real. You begin to see that the problem was never only abandonment, but the meaning it gained within you. And when you begin to see this, something inside slows down. Not because the fear disappeared, but because it was recognized. And that changes everything. You no longer react the same way. You observe, you feel. But you do not completely lose yourself. There is now a space between what you feel and what you do. And in that space, there is awareness. You begin to realize that you do not need to reshape yourself to stay, that you do not need to shrink to be chosen, that you do not need to anticipate abandonment to try to avoid it. And that does not mean the fear is gone. It still appears, sometimes quietly, sometimes intensely, but now it does not control everything. It does not define your choices the same way. You begin to return, little by little, to yourself. And in that return, something is rebuilt, not as before, but in a more real way, more whole. You begin to realize that staying with yourself is different from staying with someone, and that perhaps the most painful abandonment is not when someone leaves, but when you stop being present with yourself. And then something shifts, not as a solution, but as a new way of being, more present, more aware, more true, like an ocean that continues to move, but no longer confuses itself with the storm. If this thought touched you, write the word presence in the comments, because it is in presence that you stop living through fear and begin to find yourself within yourself.